Hi there. In this lecture I just want to mention I've got a new course out on one knight c3, which has been one of my favourite pet moves recently. The idea is to take the opponent by surprise. So this is actually on a very special offer. If you go through the Kingscrusher TV page, you'll see you can get over 80% off. So you should see 80% off when you click on the Queen's Knight attack opening, and also other openings and courses have a big discount right now for the next 4 days. So in this course with knight c3, if we open this up, some key points I made. It's an interesting alternative to mainline opening theory, with e4 or d4. A lot of grandmasters have been visiting things like the Catalan in recent years, more interest in d4. The Berlin defense, for example, has put a lot of grandmasters, it seems, off playing one e4. So this is even more extreme. It's more extreme avoidance of opening theory. And the idea of surprise, it's kind of putting surprise up there as a high priority, not just what engines think are accurate. I'm basically saying in this course that surprise is also a weapon as well as accuracy, especially in more casual online chess. Getting opponents to improvise and have to solve problems early. It can spend time on their clock. They can improvise badly. The blunders are all there waiting to be made, and we're really encouraging those blunders when we play in a surprising fashion so early on. So basically, here is, it's over 18 hours 35 at the moment, and because it's like one of my pet systems, this is a course I'm definitely going to try and evolve. And it's opening theory, of course, you can make use of in every game with white without fail. It's not something you have to catch once in a blue moon. So I think it's very, very interesting. You can see if you explore my Chess opening explorer and put my name in, you can see that I've had great results with one knight c3. And my original ideas relating to it is that if you get stronger at the transpositional destinations, then that's going to make you stronger with this repertoire. But there are some interesting, surprising things about one knight c3, which, for example, knight c3 e5. Let's actually get a board out here. Okay, let's say knight c3 e5. You don't have to play e4 to transpose into a Vienna game. Knight f3 is actually surprising and accurate. You're actually getting a small edge here, especially in knight c6, d4, e takes, knight takes d4 lines. If they don't play knight f6, if they play with the bishop, there are ways of getting quite a significant advantage straight out of the opening. So this is to be borne in mind that sometimes it's not just surprise value, it's also accuracy. And you could say, well, hold on, Kingscrusher, what about the Sicilian defense? It's true that the most logical move is the most accurate here, but we can still play in a fun way. We can still have that spirit of surprise. For example, we can go in now for a Grand Prix attack with knight c3. This is a better version of the Grand Prix attack. Then, for example, if we played e4, c5 straight off the bat and f4, there's the Tal Gambits. So knight c3 plays quite an opening theory, simplification role. And you might think, well, hold on, what about getting d5? Well, this position, we can be surprising. Although we've blocked in our pawn, the Jabava, London system, which has been popularized a lot by Grandmaster Simon Williams, based on Jabava's excellent results with this can be a new kind of trendy, viable option to bishop g5, which was what traditionally was played. So this Viktor Verasov attack, we can play bishop f4, and sometimes we do have the surprising knight b5 when the opponent is not aware that could be a threat. So okay, so there are some surprise values, and we do get a lot of example games of the Jabava system in this course. So in a way, it's like you're tricking the opponent. Would they have actually played d5 if you had played d4 straight off the bat? Maybe not. Maybe they'd wanted to play a King's Indian. But again, if they play knight f6, we can inject knight c3. You can see knight c3 is quite often a magical ingredient in many openings. And here, did they really want a Piet's defense? Probably not. Did they really want this position where you might know the Jabava system a lot more than them if you play bishop f4? Maybe they're only like classically trained on older games of bishop g5. So it's about avoiding the opponent's informational preparations. And also this course, gives the option that on knight c3, d5, you can actually venture with e4. And there are some surprising twists here on d takes, knight takes. If knight d7, instead of d4, we can actually point to the soft spot, f7, straight off the bat. And there are very entertaining and, nearly, engine approved variations with bishop takes f7 check here, believe it or not. There's quite an interesting number of, master games which have been quite successful for white with this surprising bishop takes f7. So yes, so this is kind of interesting, this territory here. But I also examined the two gambits that I've been playing with d3, especially at bullet or faster 3-minute time controls. This Dunst gambit is interesting, a very unexplored territory. You can go back into a black Mardima gambit with f3, so e takes, knight f6. We can play d4, and we can leverage black Mardima games by transposition. So there's a whole load of transpositional wealth to this opening, and in fact so much so I've actually created, I'm quite pleased with, this 4-quadrant diagram model which I explained in the course. So basically we try and be systematic in how we prepare for our knight c3. We try and isolate those variations which are surprising and accurate. For example, knight c3, e5, knight f3, it would be the top left of a quadrant diagram where we value both accuracy and surprise. This would be top left. This is the diagram I'm referring to. And we can think of all of our openings and variations. We can plot them to this diagram. So this might actually help you reformat your entire repertoire, basically. If we value surprise and we value accuracy, I mean, most of us do value accuracy, especially the more high stakes games. You don't want like a lost position out of the opening necessarily, unless there's compensation, So basically we want the top left. We want to organize our resources to be surprising and accurate. So knight c3, e5, knight f3 is surprising and accurate. But you could have surprising and not so accurate. You could play the crazy knight e4. And even me, I wasn't going to entertain this at all. But instead of saying the computer says no, yeah, if d6 or e6 to protect the pawn, there is actually a transposition option with f4. Don't laugh too hard just yet, because we can put our knight on f2 and play it like a bird's opening. We can either play it with g3 or we can play it with e3 like a kind of reversed classical Dutch with bishop e2 and knight f3. So that's kind of interesting, very rare territory. But you know what, if you have more experience in that territory, even if computer says no to knight e4 or computer says no to knight f3, Mestrovich speciality, with g3 later, we're sacrificing a little bit of accuracy for the surprise value. Look at this quadrant diagram. So we see we don't want inaccurate and not surprising. We do want surprising and accurate. But sometimes we can make a bit of a trade-off, a concession. We can be a little bit surprising but introduce inaccuracy. Or we can be kind of bog standard, at least early on, if they play the Sicilian, that is accurate, but suspend the surprises for like now. Instead of trying to go back into a mainline Sicilian, I kind of loathe people spending their weekends learning mainline opening theory when they could be, watching Netflix, playing with their pets, enjoying the company of their friends and family. Instead, they could be doing all sorts of things instead of, learning all the intricate variations of, say, the Grunfeld defense. Those are the worst kind of bookworms. But anyway, so f4 though, we keep it surprising, Grand Prix attack system, or knight c6, even play it appropriately. If they play knight c6, look at the latest wrinkles of the Grand Prix attack, bishop b5 first. And there's all sorts of fun to be had here. We don't have to go back into the main lines, even if we do start off with this position. But even if we don't want this position, we have surprises in store, a couple of which at least are mentioned in this course. So knight f3 is a more interesting one, perhaps. Instead of having a pawn committed to e4, we see Mestrovich playing g3 and bishop g2 later, and the fianchetto with d4 later could be energetic, keeping the diagonal open if we play g3 and bishop g2. So this is the 4-quadrant diagram, and the really weird thing about this, I thought I was just organizing the course, but actually it's very helpful during games of chess, at least online, I thought it was very, very helpful to think about in relation to the opponent. How much surprise do I want? What are the trade-offs that I'm making here? A bit more conscientiousness about the trade-offs you're making with such a simple two-variable diagram. It's incredible what can happen. So, okay, let's continue what I was talking about earlier about this diagram now. And where it's accurate but not surprising, we could play this and that's accurate but not so surprising. But, if the opponent plays e5, e4, it's not surprising and not accurate. And this is the bottom right. So the course emphasizes each section as part of the quadrant diagram that we want to head to the top left, where we have both for surprise and accuracy. So we want to be really strong, especially on these variations, these types of variations, like this position. It's actually a very logical move in the position. That's the thing with accuracy. It's logical moves which really play to the nuances of the position. So the four quadrant diagram, I thought it was just going to help me organizing the course, prioritizing where example games are, but I actually have since found it a very useful tool actually when playing chess in the opening stage, to think about two key variables of interest, surprise and accuracy, and see how they trade off and choose variations depending on how strong or the opponent is, or how my mood is for tactics. So let's go back now to the course structure, and I'll show you that now on the course structure. Okay, here we are. So you see that in each section I've actually identified the four quadrant positions. So surprising and accurate for the job of our system. For example, closed Scandinavian is surprising but maybe slightly inaccurate. Nevertheless, certain online grandmasters like Alexa81, who's bashed me up so many times, he's actually in effect a player of this system, because for one e4 d5 he'll play knight c3, which is actually the closed Scandinavian, but we're getting positions of interest which feed into this repertoire. So that's a very highly successful online grandmaster, kind of dominating so many of the daily super blitzes at League Chess, which are fiercely contested. So closed Scandinavian is very, very interesting to consider. e4, and so there's d takes e4, there's the two gambits, there's the provocative d4 though. Let's look at it. This is like reverse knight tango, and basically you get all of these systems where I've essentially identified what quadrant do these belong into. Is it surprising but maybe inaccurate? Yeah, Black Mardima, you could say that for most gambits they are surprising but slightly inaccurate, except the Marshall gambit, for example, or the Alekhine Chattard gambit, or the Queen's gambit, which is not really a gambit because black can't really hold on to the pawn. But most gambits have an element of unsoundness. But this is the thing about this course. We're in this computer age, and if the computer says no, people tend to be very strict about that. But actually we're playing casual games online where most games are actually decided by inaccuracies and blunders after the opening phase. So just because computers say no doesn't mean we have to spoil our fun, especially if it's not like one-day chess. Maybe we can actually tolerate a certain level of inaccuracy to bring in the surprise value. So that's one of the big points about this course. It's the element of surprise. And if you're a fan of the Art of War, basically the Art of War talked about deception. Like if your enemy thinks you are far but actually you're near, that's kind of surprising. All of the examples in the Art of War go towards that, the act of deception and how it plays an important part. So yeah, knight c3, I'm exploring all the interesting angles, and it equips you well with most of the options. So you'll see from this course structure for yourself how it can equip you. So this is a system which, like a lot of surprise openings, like 1b3 or knight, you can actually just play these occasionally for maximum value, so people don't prepare against you too much. So you add even more surprise to the surprise. So I do hope you check it out, but make sure you check it out via the Kingscrusher.tv page to get this huge discount now for the next 4 days. After that, there's the 30-day discounts, which are still pretty significant, more than 70% discounts. So I hope you check out my courses page, and you might want to pick up some other courses right now because they're at maximum discount. So okay, I hope you maybe got some insights from this video. introduction to this course. I mean, it's something which I've been wanting to do for a great deal of time, because it actually helps reinforce and clarify my own thinking for my use of one knight c3. And for me, you know, a big takeaway was the 4-quadrant model, which I might actually give a sample, you know, video soon on my YouTube channel. Okay, thanks very much.